Good morning, everyone. Thanks so much for joining today's webinar. I'm Lauren Milojevic. I'm the Director of Marketing and Business Development at Simplify. Today, we're excited to have our VP of Platform and Technology, Eric Blondin, discussing and demoing how to use analytic applications in your SAC planning process. Also, when the webinar concludes, a short survey is going to appear. So if you guys are able to fill that out, we would really appreciate it. It's only 2 questions, so it shouldn't take too much time. And then afterwards, please feel free to reach out to Eric or myself after the webinar with any questions. And now I will hand it over to Eric and he can get started.
Thank you, Lauren. Good morning, everyone. And actually looking at the list, I think it's good afternoon or even good evening to some of you. So welcome to this webinar. So I hope you've been able to follow some of our previous webinars at Simplify over the past few months. I know we've published a lot of webinars, so I really encourage you to go and have a look on our website. At the top, there's a YouTube link where you can see recordings from a lot of those videos. So go in there, a lot of planning applications with a lot of different scenarios. But something we never really presented and talked about is the Analytic Designer functionality in SAC. This came out, I think, I didn't look it up actually before, but I think it came out early last year in 2019. Analytics Designer pretty much reproduces what Design Studio and the Business Object Suite was able to do, then Lumira Designer a bit later on. Now it's fully integrated into Analytics Cloud, and I'm going to talk about some use cases where this applies in a planning scenario. I was talking to a lot of people wondering, okay, what can we do with Analytics Designer? What can it add to my scenarios? Is it really, what's the point? So this is really what we're going to be discussing today. If you've attended some of my previous webinars, I tend to fill in the whole hour. I think today it's going to be a bit shorter, really to bring up some use cases. But once that's done, you'll notice there's a section where you can ask questions. Do not hesitate to ask questions. Because there's probably some scenarios I won't have thought of and you may want to ask it, and a lot of people in this webinar today, so you may want to share those questions. Probably a lot of people who are interested in that question. Okay, so without further delay, let's get into the subject of our presentation. So first of all, I'll quickly go through an introduction. As I mentioned, I hope a lot of you have been able to attend our webinars in the past, but quickly, who Simplify is. Really only 2 slides, so we'll go through that very quickly. Then talk about SAC positioning. I don't want to confuse anyone. There's Analytics Designer, which is a very strong tool within SAC, but I have 1 slide where we position Analytics Designer versus the standard stories we find in SAC. So I want to make sure everyone understands why we go to Analytics Designer and who really should. This is not for everyone. So talking about SAC positioning by SAP, and then getting into the solution itself, I'm going to go through 1 application we built on our content, pre-packed content on HR planning. So actually, Beth McGreen, one of my colleagues, did a presentation on comp planning quite a few months ago, I think in April. So if you go on our YouTube channel, you will see the full demo of that application, where the screen I rebuilt with an application designer where it actually fits in there. Okay, so quickly, who is Simplify? So Simplify, we focus on analytics, planning, and consolidation. We are SAP certified. All of our consultants have on average over 10 years experience in SAP financial solutions. We specialize on Analytics Cloud, obviously, but also on the other solutions SAP has, BW, HANA, integration with SAP solutions, BPC, business objects, and Data Warehouse Cloud, which is slowly coming up as one of the main solutions from SAP, is also part of our portfolio. And we help our customers implement the solution. We help them with staffing challenges, and also on training. In some cases, this is all that's needed to help them gain a good understanding of the solution they have in front of them and work with them in training their teams. Our company goal, we are a small niche partner. So obviously, our goal is 100% referenceable customers. We don't have hundreds of employees with hundreds of customers. The customers we work with, we focus and make sure they can be used as references so we can talk about them with our following customers who will really see the potential of working with Simplify. We are headquartered in Chicago, although we do focus on Midwest, where Chicago is, and Northeast region. Myself, personally, I'm actually based in Montreal, Canada. This is the leadership team at Simplify. So myself, bottom left corner, everything on platform and technology. Earlier I said everyone pretty much at Simplify has a financials background. Most of them are CPAs. I say most because I'm pretty much the only one who isn't. I'm more on the platform and technology side with a good understanding of finances, but pretty much everyone else at Simplify is focused on finance with a good understanding of technology as well. And a good example of how we've been able to really gain expertise in our market, SAP engages us to help running workshops, running demos. We are regularly involved with SAP to demonstrate the potential of SAP. And we've been invited to a few SAP events as well around SAC and BPC in the past. And so today, we're one of SAP's main go-to partners for Analytics Cloud and BPC. We've implemented over 200 planning models, and we have a very strong internal team. So yeah, we say not contractors, and it's true. All our projects have people employed by Simplify, and we will only use contractors on some very niche requirements that are a bit outside a role like basis and others with whom we have very strong partnerships. So Analytics Cloud. Some of you may also actually follow the workshop we ran, I think in June now. It was a workshop, 2-day workshop, where we actually had people attend and build their own HR solution. Again, all of this was built by business analysts, so mainly FP&A people. So people who are using planning solutions. So we actually trained them on building out planning solutions with HR planning as the main subject. So these were some of the tools that were built with backend data actions and the input forms. So today, the screen I'm going to show on application design actually builds on that content that was built during that workshop. And it wasn't built for anyone who had attended it. So it's really an extra information that can be available afterward. So SAP Analytics Cloud, you've probably seen that slide a few times from SAP. So that's the one when I was talking about positioning. So you have the BI, you have planning for financial analysts. So even building some planning solutions in SAC, as I mentioned, our people at Simplify are financial analysts, CPAs, and they are the ones building the planning solutions. So you don't need strong IT backend to build these solutions, and you can really get your business involved in defining all the items within their solution. Now, if we go to analytic application design, which is today's subject, yes, you can build it on top of whatever planning solution we built out. But the actual application design, you'll see you can involve financial analysts, but you'll need people who are a bit more technical to be able to complete it. You can kind of lay down the bricks for the application design. So this is how I want it to look. You can put all your items, but all the interactions I'm going to talk about, this you will need people who are a lot more comfortable with development. So those final details, we could say, but nothing related to the base solution itself. You can build the whole screen, and it's in the end when I click, I wanted to do this. This is where you'll need an application designer, but I'll get to that in a few minutes. One thing to keep in mind with SAC, and it's one of our big subjects we have with a lot of customers, is SAC has continuous improvements. Every quarter, there's a new release with new functionalities. Us as partners, and pretty much every partner we have access to, every 2 weeks we have a new release. We can test, we can validate everything works. So this here, I just took a screenshot a few weeks ago on their website. So you see every 2 weeks there's a release, and then every quarter there's a main release that's launched to all the customers. So that release Q3, for example, which is the last one that was done, includes all the bi-weekly releases we have here. So release Q3 had all of those. Now we're heading towards Q4, which I think is in November. So in November, we'll have the Q4 release with all the new functionalities that have been built by SAP since then. And those are very documented. So if you go here in Analytics Cloud product updates, you'll have all of those updates. You're really able to see if there's something you don't like and you're wondering, are they fixing that in the next release? You'll always be able to track it here, okay? And if you don't have SAC, everything I'm showing today is available in a 90 days free trial. So you go on this website, try it free. You have 90 days to try everything, build out a solution. Integration is not entirely available in the free edition, but pretty much all the building options are in there. So that was it from an introduction perspective. 10 minutes, so I'm good on my, no, 15 minutes, sorry. But I'm good on my schedule. So Analytics Designer. So Analytics Designer is really a solution that can help you improve the look and feel of your solution, but also how you interact with it. And it can even simplify how users will end up using it. So if I go back to the solution we built a few months ago on HR planning at Simplify. So this is a standard interface. So anyone here who has seen SAC will recognize this. And as an end user, okay, you're able to come in, enter values in here. You can manage versions. There are plenty of icons up here. You can do refresh. You can do your filters. So right now we're on entity East US. So entity could be your company code, cost center versions, and you have plenty of options. Some of them are hidden depending on where you are. You have the right-click options, lots of things you can do. And you can, one thing I love when I need to go and drill down into my data is the Explorer interface. Not everyone loves it, but for me, it's one of the things I like that really enables me to, if I'm trying to figure out something, why is it not working? Why am I missing some data? With this here, it's going to pre-select whatever was on the screen you were on. It's the Explorer mode, they call it. Anyone who used Explorer in the past in business objects or in Lumira will recognize it, and then I can really go and drill down. So here I see I've excluded new hires, so I'm only looking at employees and cost centers. So how are those organized? And I'm missing something here. I can always select. Things will be filtered based on what I selected. So that's interesting, and that's really one thing I like. One of my pet peeves with it, though, is once you start having a very complex planning solution, at some point, you have so many measures available here. Some are technical, some are user-oriented, some are in different screens, and you shouldn't be seeing them here. They're just going to confuse the user. So keep that in mind as we now get into the analytics application and some of the customization we can do. Okay, so my inspiration, let's keep that in mind, was this screen here, and I slowly started rebuilding it. So if I come back to the home page at Analytics Cloud, you have it in here. So different information here. And if you're used to Analytics Cloud, you have your entry page with your recent stories. And you may not have, if you've never built applications, recent analytic applications. So really, applications are managed separately from the rest. So even the icon is a bit different. You see a kind of a jigsaw puzzle icon here instead of just a presentation kind of icon. So if I'm to click here, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to click on my Analytics Designer screen, and this opens my Analytics Designer. So it is refreshing. So you're probably recognizing the same interface we saw earlier. And what I can do is I can really customize it so I can hide all of the icons we saw earlier. So we can hide everything that's at the top. And one of the interesting things with Analytic Designer is you can then customize the options you see at the top here. You have options in Analytics Cloud. You can put input controls, but you need to use what's defined in the master data. If I go to a simple dropdown like the one I have here, so right now I have all entities. So I decided to have a flat presentation of the information I have. Could decide, let's go look at Canada. Okay, so no one's very impressed yet, I think. So we can do a drop down to any of those. But what's interesting with this drop down is fully customizable. I'm sure you've all had scenarios where, well, Canada and the US, it's not exactly the same. When you're in Canada, we don't manage it by region, we manage it by province. So I'd actually need this column here to be province if I select Canada, but if I select US, I need this to be sales regions. And actually sales regions, one of them in Canada should never be shown because of that specific scenario, but that doesn't apply to the US. So this is something, as an analyst, you know your data by heart, you're applying those rules, but your end users, they don't. Or you may have been trying to explain it to them. No, that's the reason why this doesn't work, because you didn't apply that filter. It should be there. What's interesting with Analytics Designer is this dropdown. You can integrate those rules in each of those selections, because you are not only selecting master data values. You are selecting a whole list of rules that are in the back end that will apply to the selection. So if Canada, then apply these rules, change that filter, change that column. Everything will change in the way your table is organized. So standard manipulations you're trying to explain to your end users, move this out, switch it with another, change a hierarchy. All those little options you need to explain to your users to do it step by step can be fully integrated into that dropdown. I'll get into how to configure that in a sec. This is not a training session though, so I obviously won't get into all the details on how to code it, but I'll show you where you can put all those options, and you'll understand when you get there why earlier I said you need Application Designer to kind of finalize all those interactions. Something else that we hear often is, okay, I want to have documentation. So something we've done a lot in SAC is in a story, so going back to the story here, we often have a tab at the top that has the whole documentation. So on tab 2, you should do this. On tab 3, you should do this. You give the information on all that process. But how about, instead of doing that, you integrate it with each of those, but without filling it the screen. So just regular pop-ups, excuse me, where you can put all the information you want. You can put URLs. You can put a Word document. You double click in here, so you can really customize it. And these pop-ups right now, I made it that I need to click on that little eye at the top. But you could clearly make it that the moment someone opens that application, this pops up. And again, once it's set up, okay, you have an application designer that sets up that pop-up. The content, again, can be managed by any of your business analysts, finance, or whichever division they're working out of. Okay, so it's only the fact of generating the pop-up that is technical. Everything else, it's actually the same options, the same interfaces as we have in SAC. Again, I'll be getting into the technical side of things in a minute. I just want to walk you through some of the options I enabled here, and then I'll talk about some use cases I did not put in here and how this all works out in the back end. So we have information. We have some custom filters where we can put very complex rules, but it's really simple from an end user perspective. Also, something you may have worked with are versions. So right now we're working on a budget version. As users, sometimes there are plenty of options up here to work with version management, history and all. But again, you may want to avoid having all those drop-down menus. And like any planning solutions, there is a whole lot of right-click options. And what application design really enables you is to remove all those right-click options, put them on the screen, put the important ones on screen, and you can even disable right-click because you don't want people to get lost. Here are the functions you need. You put them on screen. The other ones, you just hide them, or you at least limit the number of options that are available in that right-click so that people don't try to find so many things in there. So here, I'm just going to copy this budget version. I want to try some scenarios, but I don't want to put it in the official budget. Right now, I want it as a private version. So you can do it with right-click, version management and all, but let's imagine copy. This is a text I put. You could make it a bit more self-explanatory. So I have a public version, budget. I'm going to use budget since my report is filtered on budget. And I'm going to call it budget Eric. So I'm working on that version, and it is still a budget. So I'm just going to copy it with data because I want to have this data and start working on it. So just by doing this, clicked on copy because I knew that's one of the scenarios my users regularly want. So I won't have them go up there and right click and try to figure it out. My budget, Eric, is here, and I just click copy. And something else you may have noticed in the past, when you do create budget and enter data, some of you, if you have used SAC planning, you always need to come back, see if you've modified something, you have published data you need to click on, or else whatever you've entered is private to you only. So if it's private, obviously you'll leave, you say, yes, I did all my job, but you didn't publish it, so no one did see it. So you can really simplify everything here. For example, this publish as is only there because I have a private version. Earlier, it wasn't there because I did not have a private version. So as long as I see it there, I know, oh yeah, I'm still working on my private version here. I probably should publish it so other people can actually have a look at it. Same thing for just publishing the data in any version. Could imagine the moment you have published data, instead of reminding everyone to go here, right now it's grayed out because I didn't enter any data, but if I was to come here, you see some of them are black, some of them are gray because they're not enabled. So as an end user, you may sometimes not realize, oh, this is not gray anymore. I need to be in a editable cell to see the changes. So it's black, it's not gray. Yes, okay. So as an end user, sometimes you may miss that. And to be 100% transparent, quite a few people do miss it. They leave. Oh, I forgot to publish it. They come back later. You get a pop-up, but you don't always exit the window. You all know you start doing something else, you left the window there. So you never really got the pop-up saying before leaving, you should publish. So you just left it there. Well, you could customize it to have a big red button that says, do not forget to publish. Very basic, but honestly, would save a lot of headaches from what I've seen in a lot of scenarios. So here, I'm actually just going to delete that private version I created. So which one do I want to delete? I want to delete my private version I just created. Yes, I do not have the rights to delete any other version. So it's only going to show me the versions I'm allowed to delete. And it's refreshed, it's gone. And the options are gone now because everything I have has been published. Finally, another small scenario we have in here. And you know, I could spend the next 2 hours going through these different scenarios. I'm going to get out of the end user screen and a bit on the technical in a few minutes, and then summarize it, and we'll be done. But there's so many options you can do. One of those I have here, you have your annual pay. Typically, users can do adjustments in the annual pay adjustment input. And so as you can see here, small adjustments. So you have your adjusted base annual pay. But let's say instead of entering values, I'd just like to see, okay, if I give everyone a 3% raise, what's the impact on my overall salary? So here, everyone just got a 3% raise just by moving that slider around. I've heard some people saying, okay, I don't like sliders. Honestly, why would I want to use that? It's cumbersome and all. Well, you can do the exact same thing. Some of you in BPC, for example, may have seen you just have a small input field. You put a 3, apply percentage. So that input field, and then a small square at the top here, apply percentage, will do the exact same thing. If you'd rather type in a number instead of slider rule, same use case, works exactly the same way. You just put that little box, apply, and it will do the same thing on whatever measure you define you wanted to use. So this is all fine and nice. So I said, okay, I need an application designer to work on this. What do I mean? So here I'm going to go and edit Analytic application. And this is where you get really development interface. I won't spend too much time here. The idea is not to build it, but you really get this solution here. So you put your buttons, you put your slider, you put your drill down, and then you customize everything. Some of you, if you've looked in the past, there was no way of putting CSS, but now you can put CSS. So that's enough with the technical jargon, but CSS really enables you to customize a look and feel. And anything you define here, so I did say here, so this drop down is called get entity. And if I look, well, this is what we call JavaScript. You may have heard of JavaScript in the past. And if you're wondering, okay, if you don't know what JavaScript here, it's just go on Google. How to learn JavaScript? The JavaScript has been there for years. I was in college, and that's a while ago. JavaScript was there. It's evolved, obviously, since then, but there's a lot of stuff you can do with JavaScript, and it really enables you to script everything you're doing in application design. So here, a very simple thing I built. So in that drop-down get entity, so I had all entities at the top, and then the different entities. So the all option, I actually inserted it elsewhere in my code. So the all entities option, that's not part of my master data. So when someone selects all, so that's a key for the all entities option I had, and I go here, what it does, it removes all dimensions on my dimension. Excuse me. It removes all filters on my dimension. So very simple, but this is only to represent for each value. I could do else if Canada, remove filter on that certain field, but apply that filter and switch columns around. This is the kind of place you end up doing it, but it's all going to be code like this. So all your interface, you can build it. Okay, I want this drop down here. I want this button here. I want it to look like this. I want it this way. So this, as an end user, you just go and insert all your objects, put them where you want. So this, as a business user, you can do. And even customizing the table, if you've done some SAC, it's actually the same interface you have in SAC. So these are the fields I want, these are the filters I want by default. So you define everything you want by default. So that's going to be here. And then you put buttons, then you print it, you put notes on it, and you give that to an analytics designer. He's going to have all the interface built out. He's going to have fun doing the code. So typically, you know what you want as a business user, but you may not know how to code. And people who code sometimes don't know exactly how you want all your things to get organized. You can do that for them. This is basic SAC, configuration, and then it's really analytics development you go doing here, and they can start building all of this. Even that pop-up description I showed you earlier, it's right here. So I added an icon. I want to move it around. That's not an issue. I want to change the text that's in here. Yes, because tomorrow there's something new. I'm going to change that text, and it's already called out. So it's attached automatically to that little I put at the top. So I can just change what comes out of it. So you need those application developers to kind of build out the different interactions. But once that's done, everything else, it's basic SAC development. Yeah, so, and I say development, it's really configuration. Anyone who spent a few days in SAC as a business analyst gets very comfortable building it. And it's only at the end when you need to start coding, you may look at it and say, I'm not sure I want to get into this. Okay, I have no clue what this does. Okay, so give that to a developer. This he's going to do in 5 minutes once he gets familiar with how SAC works, but you may not want to get comfortable doing it. But you can get a good idea of, okay, so when I select something in my table, or if I change something, I have the option of having 2 different interactions. So that's interesting. If I was looking earlier at my header info, so that's the small I at the top. If I click here, unclick, it opens, but I also have the option, if someone keeps it clicked, I could give another option. Maybe unclick, it gives basic info on documentation, but you tell them if you keep it clicked, it opens an actual completely new page with a lot more information, for example. So through this, without coding it, you can clearly see all your building. How do you want it to interact with your users? So I have my clock, I have my slider. This is really, I inserted slider, done. Then the developer comes in and does a code attached to it. So really, two roles can really work together with that application, and it's all based on the same SAC models that were built in the past. So this is the same model we've used in our previous scenarios. I've reused all the key figures, everything. And you remember earlier, I'll run back here. Yeah, I don't want to save my changes. going to run that application again. And I went into the Explorer window, and I said, in some application, at some point, it becomes such a pain to figure out where everything is, all my measures, there's so many of them. And as an end user, I may not understand how everything is organized. So what I can do here, what I've done, if I open the same Explorer window, same thing, but I made sure they only see the measures that apply to the scenario they're looking at. So now they can easily say, okay, I don't want this, I want to see these. There could be a few extras that we haven't looked at. So now I have those. I don't want it by employee or by position, and I probably want to look at it as a chart. So here it is, and I've started looking at my information. Okay, this looks exactly what I wanted to, and you can go out, but this really enables you to drill down and investigate any data you have so that you can really understand how your data is organized and sometimes figure out a glitch in your data, but you can make it simpler, hide all the superfluous stuff that as an end user, sometimes they don't understand your data model enough. So with this, you get into it, it's really streamlined for them. So coming back to why Analytic Designer. Okay, so we built it. Looks very similar to what SAC is. It is there to really simplify how an end user will interact, because typically in an enterprise, you have that 5% who really understands that data. And sometimes 5%, I'm exaggerating, it could be even a lower number of people, but you have 50% that need to use the application. So with a solution like Analytics Designer, you can really simplify it, make sure to limit number of user errors. You script everything that you feel generates errors. And you don't need to script everything at the beginning. Excuse me. You'll see where your users have challenges. You probably already know where they have challenges, and start simplifying it, automating it slowly as they get to, as they get to use the application. So you're putting sliders like I did, or an input field to apply percentage increase. Data actions, so you know all those people who are from the VPC world, so script logic or Fox that runs in the back end when you need to click a button. They're called data actions in SAC, and you can make it so that some data actions will run the moment so user changes tab, changes filters, or just saves data, automatically runs a data action, because sometimes you don't want them to remember to click a button. They'll forget to click the button, and that causes a mess elsewhere. So you can do it dynamic, so that it really runs a data action. So custom drop downs or radio button, I did a drop down, could have been radio buttons where you can assign varied and complex filters to each option. Version management, I showed you a quick predefined interaction on versions. You can also manage locking your data. You can lock a version, you can lock a month, you can lock a cost center. And again, all this is available through right click and through menus and all, but maybe you want to simplify it because that user will only do 2 functions in the solution. So let's make it simple. It's on screen, clicks on it, selects the value he wants to lock, clicks the big lock button that's on screen, doesn't have to right click, and it's done. So really, again, and maybe it's done, but it needs to validate something, you can all package that in that button. Maybe it needs to run a data action before the lock. Again, you can all package that within the interface you're building out, and integrate all your documentation. Generate targeted pop-ups like I did before, or manage comments flexibly. Right now, comments, you can right-click, put data point comments, where you can literally build an interface to see how many comments are on my model. You can list them beside it and see where they're assigned instead of trying to find data where comments are organized. So many use cases that can simplify how your planning process works. And from my perspective, if you can write down a logic for it, if you're able to say, when this, I want to do that, chances are you can actually do it in Analytics Designer. There's really a lot of stuff. And if you're trying to wonder, okay, how do I start building an Analytics Designer? Obviously, the easy answer I'd give you is contact us. We'll gladly help you figure out what works best for you. But there's also the Analytics Cloud Designer Developer Handbook. You need to understand JavaScript. I mentioned that before. because a lot of that refers to JavaScript standards in the way of developing. But then all the custom functions here, I just, these are some of the, okay, I kind of hid the titles here. I was in the planning section. So a lot of things specific to planning, but then there's other subjects you can do. There's over 250 pages worth of documentation on what to develop in Analytics Designer. And they update it quite regularly, pretty much close to every release. There's going to be an update with all the new functions that are available, what was changed. And so you can really refer back to it and start building off it if you're comfortable doing it, or get some people. But from this, you can get good inspiration as well as what can be done in there. And this guide will actually give you a very good idea of this. So that was pretty much what I wanted to go through today. We're almost 40 past. Let me go and look if I have any questions. I think we do. Question, okay. Dynamic execution of, I think we do not have such APIs. Well, let me go back. It's actually, I'm going to open here. I'm actually going to refer to the guidebook, the last one, Analytics Designer. Hello. So I was in pages 240 earlier. So planning data action triggers. And so you can really trigger those data actions. You integrate that in your code and you put it anywhere, on click, on refresh, on whatever. All the places I mentioned earlier, you could put some script. Here you can actually generate a data action trigger. Please put some more light. Need to manage comments flexibly. Okay, actually, I did not build an example on comments, but there is a standard sample. And actually, there's something that could be very interesting to some of you. If some of you want to dig down into how to technically do it. Okay, so this is going to cover all the questions I have, so don't hesitate to put a few more. But if I go in SAC and Analytics Designer, okay, there's actually a lot of feature demos that are available. They don't look great, but they really show functionalities that you can do in there. And I think I saw one around comments. So it's just going to take a second. Comment feature inside an application. So this is only an example. They did it this way. So you planning enabled. So you have some data. So this is the best run standard SAP, and you get some comments. I haven't played with it, but you can see you can get all comments. You can add a comment on the data you're looking at. You can get comment by ID, remove comments by ID, remove all comments. So I really recommend if you're trying to figure out how to do comments, use comment feature inside applications, come and have a look at this one, show and hide comments. I haven't played much with it, but typically those samples are really useful and really help you understanding how you can do things within the solution. You can do many complex calculation in the story. And be created. Okay, so typically, so I'm being asked, so you can do a lot of complex calculations in the story. And what I found, building those complex calculations, I would go at it the opposite of what's being asked here is, can you do them in application design and then call them back in the story? I'd actually go the other way around. Build those complex calculations you can define within a standard story. You'll really be able to look at them, play with them, validate them, and then figure out how you want to call them out once you get into your application design solution. Okay, so complex calculations, as mentioned in the question, can be done in here. Then it's how you call them out, how that is not easily doable here in some cases. So then you call them differently here. So when you select it, it's going to be that calculation, but in this different context, it's going to be a different one. And this is a scenario I've done in the past where, depending on where you select, the measure that's shown is actually different because depending on scenarios, you want different measures to show for different values, maybe in a drop down. Okay. But if calculations are based on selection, yes, I understand. Okay, yeah, so understands. But for the people who have asked questions, if you feel I haven't covered, I don't want to get into too much detail on a webinar like this. But if you do have questions, I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint. Don't hesitate to write to us. We'll gladly get in contact with you, get some discussion. No obligation here. We can slowly start to have a small discussion, understanding what you're trying to do, and see maybe we can help you, or maybe we just answer a simple question and that's going to be enough to what you're doing. So thank you very much for attending our webinar today, and do follow up on our website for future webinars and have a look at the past ones that we've done in the past few months. Thank you very much.